You're muted, buddy.
Unmuted. Yeah, usually what ends up happening is it'll unmute for me, but I guess not this time. So we do it live, guys. Heck yeah.
Yep.
Right. Anyways, welcome to The Ascending Man. I am Nate McGettit. This here is Ascending Tech, where we dive into projects that will ascend your portfolio to new levels, right? So again, I'm The Ascending Man, Nate McGettit. We're about to have fun with this one because today we are talking about the greenest money printer in the world. And it just happens to be on Pulse Chain, of course. Isn't that the best L1 ever? Here's the interesting thing, too. It's just in time for St. Patty's Day. So
I never thought of that.
Yeah. I was thinking about it, and I went to a customer's house, and I saw Happy St. Patty's Day. I'm like, oh, that is really soon, isn't it? Wait a minute. Isn't this ink, the greenest logo type of thing coming out? Isn't that interesting? So, anyways. With that being said, joining me here today is the incredible Jiu-Jitsu King, Fast Abdoul.
Nice
and
name.
Yes, you are the Jiu-Jitsu King, and you've got a new project out called Ink Printer.
You bet. Not quite out yet, but we're looking at coming out pretty soon. The audit is just about done. The code is done. We're just gonna brush things up and put it out there.
Excellent.
No sacrifice, no pre-sale, no fundraiser of any type. It's just we're just gonna be sending this one.
Yeah, this is the final one that would be needed to complete the RH liquidity forks, if I believe so. You could, at this point, you could just call them the liquidity forks core fours. But you know what? There's actually some interesting things you did with this one, though. That's a little bit different, and we will definitely get into that, right? But I truly do think, this is going to be really helpful and extremely useful protocol for people, to go make money, to have themselves a money printer. But I think it'll help out Ink as well quite a bit. All right. But before we jump into this, all right, make sure to smash that like button. You take out your pen, you scribble all over my channel, right? Hit the subscribe and turn on the notifications so you never miss an episode. And I mean, hey, if you find this valuable, don't forget to share this with your fellow crypto enthusiasts because it helps more than you know. All right. Now, let's go ahead and dive into this ink printer.
Let's do it.
Now, Fast Abdoul, do you want to go ahead and give me the elevator pitch of what ink printer is?
Okay. So ink printer is a liquidity fork that will allow ink to be used as collateral for a stable coin. It will give people options to basically stake their ink by turning it into the stable coin and single-sided stake it being the protocol. They'll be able to take leverage on their ink. They can use it to have a stop loss on the ink price and definitely use it to generate income on the Pulse chain.
And like I said, this is the fourth one now of the core fours. And so we got liquid loans for Pulse chain, right? And then we got earn for Pulse X, and then we've got flex for hex flex, right? You gotta love that one. And now we have ink printer for ink. So thank you very much for creating this. This is definitely something I know RH would want to be able to leverage these core tokens and be able to pull out stabilities, and ultimately, as I have heard you say before, being able to use this as something of like a one-sided staking. So
yeah, exactly. Like basically, and I think that's one of the biggest use cases, and one of the best things about it is it's going to take a lot of sell pressure off of the ink token, in my opinion. Because right now, like what's your utility for the ink token? It's, well, this billionaire guy buys it sometimes, right? So I would like additional utility for the ink token. And I think the best way to do that is give people something to do with it rather than sell it. So, and the thing is to put it into a vault. You turn that ink token into a stable coin. So you're basically taking a loan out against your ink, a zero interest loan, mind you. So that has some benefits, potential tax benefits as well, depending on the region that you live in, of course. And then with that stable coin, like right inside the front page of the protocol, they're going to have an option to either do single-sided staking in the stability pool, which is going to allow them to earn the ink token in liquidation gains, if there's any liquidations, as well as the print token, which is sort of the core community token for the protocol. And then there's also going to be a farm that will start on day one and run for a whole year. That's going to be the Inc dollar. It's INCD. So that's the stablecoin that you mint, paired against DAI from Ethereum. Right. So
Mhm.
since it's a stable farm, you're not going to suffer much impermanent loss, right? Because they're both supposed to be worth $1. That will
Yeah.
of course make the Inc dollar stronger to be paired against DAI from Ethereum, something that can be redeemed off chain. I think that's probably a benefit for the initial pairing. And they're going to earn the print token as bonus yield there on top of the compounding, because the farm will be placed on PulseX V2. So there are fees that get compounded. You're earning more of both the Inc dollar and DAI from Ethereum when you participate in that, plus the print token as well. Then the print token, they can stake inside the protocol, and they're going to earn Inc, which is why we call it the print token. It's the Inc printer, right?
Mhm.
As the Inc dollar. Whenever somebody there's issuance gains to the print stakers. Whenever somebody mints an Inc dollar, they get a little piece. So it ends up being potentially very lucrative, especially in the early days. I think this one's going to be really hot for yield. Just my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And so that right there is the basic rundown of like how the protocol actually works. So let's go ahead and dive deep into like the nuances of this protocol, right? So let's go ahead
You
and
bet.
start with this. All right.
Okay.
Now, the Inc dollar. All right.
Yeah.
It's pegged to the US dollar, obviously. It's a stable coin.
Yeah.
But it pegs through a combination of redemptions and collateral backed insurances, right? So what are the main risks of maintaining this peg, and how does the ink printer mitigate extreme volatility events?
Yep. So stable coins, and most people don't think of them this way. So whatever stable coin you have, like be it DAI, USDC, USDT, or things on the Pulse chain that we know, like USDL, EXDC, HexDC, they're all just ERC20 tokens, right? And they have liquidity. And if you sell a lot of them, the price will go down, right? Even though it's supposed to be $1, it can go below $1. And, obviously on giant pools on Ethereum, yeah, it's a little bit harder to move the USDC price, but people do it sometimes. And there's, but every stable coin needs a mechanism.
Uh-oh, I think we lost you fast. Whoa.
Yeah, we just zapped out there, but I think we're still
I
here.
think we did. Boy, you must have had something flying over your Wi-Fi there.
It could have been.
Yeah,
Yeah,
tell McDonald's to get a better Wi-Fi. What the hell?
indeed. Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, and stop knocking on the bathroom door. I'm almost done. Just kidding. I'm not in the bathroom of a McDonald's recording this live stream. The ceiling for the stablecoin, like what makes it not go over $1, is if it is $1.50, then somebody can take ink and they can mint $1 with $1 worth of ink that is worth $1.50 that they could then sell into another stablecoin. Now we're very unlikely to see $1.50 probably, but almost certainly there will be occasions, especially in the very early days, where it goes over $1 because people are trying to get into the farms or that sort of thing. The solution to that is you can add ink into your vault and mint more ink dollars, and then you should sell it into USDC or USDT or USDL, another stable coin that is not $1.50, and then that's how you profit on the difference. As far as if the price goes below $1, which will happen on occasion as well, it's probably going to mostly be between like 99 cents and $1.01. Like that's sort of the desired range. Could be a little bit lower, down to 97 cents potentially, but not for very long, I would suspect, because of how the protocol works. If it is 97 cents, or we'll say you get a crazy deal because a whale just exited, you get it for 95 cents. There is a redemption mechanism inside the protocol whereby users can take the token to the protocol and basically exchange it for $1 worth of ink, right? Which then burns the dollar that they brought to the protocol, and that pushes it back up towards the peg.
Yeah, and that's ultimately the redemptions, right?
That is the redemption. Yeah.
Yeah. Could you run us through the redemptions real quick and what that does?
Yeah. So that's the main concept of the redemption, is that you take $1 of the ink dollar INCD to the protocol, and you exchange it for $1 worth of ink, and then the dollar that you brought in gets burned, so it disappears from existence, right? Which means that there's less dollars in the pool in existence, but there's more collateral there, and so the it starts moving up closer to the peg, right?
Mhm.
So that's one of the main mechanisms to push it up. A big part of stablecoins is also liquidity, so which is why we're incentivizing the pair
Yeah.
like ink dollar to DAI from Ethereum, because that's going to help it keep its peg to be attached to another stablecoin that has very large liquidity off chain, that people could, if DAI is cheap, people will buy up the DAI, right? And it'll be the same with ink dollar, in my opinion.
Yeah, the cool thing about these types of stable coins, right, is that if you have something like, say, USDC,
Yeah,
but you have, ink dollar, and say ink dollar is down here or is up at, like, say, a dollar, let's just say $1.05, right? Well, you
yeah,
could technically, and then like perhaps USDC is literally at like 99 or 98 cents. You could technically just dump all of your stable coins into there, and technically
yeah.
you've made more dollars.
Yeah, and you should do that. Yeah, that if you see those kind of discrepancies between stable coins that have strong pegs, then you can totally swing that into the other stable coin, and then you could turn around and take that USDC once it went back to its peg, or if it was already at its peg and it was ink dollar that was above, you could take that USDC, buy more ink, mint more ink dollars, and repeat the process. And until that arbitrage was gone, right? And that's generally healthy for the system, right? Like it gets more ink dollars pushed into the protocol, and it would be a good thing if somebody takes that arbitrage. As far as the redemption goes, there's been some FUD around the redemption with some of the other protocols, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
it's
Especially with like liquid loans. They kind of, a lot of people, it's like they start thinking it's like they were liquidated. No, it's like, bro, you were redeemed, someone
exactly.
paid off your loan, and it's
Yeah,
not the
it's
biggest
not,
deal in the
it's a
world.
net neutral most of the time, right?
Yeah.
But it's I think there were some players perhaps abusing that feature as far as an arbitrage opportunity, and liquid loans, and as well as earn and flex, like they were sort of the pioneers who did that. This is the fourth time this has been done on the chain, and so we're sort of taking the tweaks that those guys did as far as the price determination for ink, which is what determines the liquidation points and the redemption points and so on and so forth. And I think we're gonna be able to have a smoother time. I mean, of course, a lot of the people on the Pulse chain know how these protocols work because this is the fourth, and they've heard Walrus talk about it, they've heard Jesse talk about it, they've heard quite a few people go through. And many people have used those other protocols. So this will be very natural to them. We've adopted a front end that's very similar to the Earn or Flex front end. Most of the features are very similar as far as the staking token goes, and as far as like how you mint the token. The code is almost exactly the same, right? In that it's a straight liquidity fork, right? And the audit will prove that, of course. We've only made one minor change to the code of the protocol, and that is that with liquidity forks, the three on Pulse chain as well as the one on Ethereum, there's sort of a standard 14 days when the protocol first launches where there's no redemption, right? So, and that gives it a warm up period, and the reason for that, I suspect, I have not talked to the liquidity team, but I suspect it's so the protocol can bootstrap itself with enough stable coins in it to keep it running and healthy in that early period of the first 2 weeks. And then after that, the redemptions open up and people can redeem for $1 to help maintain the peg. During those early days, there's a lot of FOMO because of the farming activities, and because there's so many tokens minted during that time that so much of the stable coin, the ink dollar, will be minted during that time, that the staking of the print token will pay very well. Being first in any farm, it's just how they generally work, always pays very, very well. So that's where we anticipate seeing a rush. But what we've done is we've extended it from 14 days to 45 days. So it's literally one number on one line of code changes from 14 days to 45 days. So we're not messing with the code apart from that, because this is a pretty tried, tested, and true protocol. This will be the 39th fork of Liquidity I know of. But 45 days will allow people to participate with the protocol and have like a lower collateralization level. So basically put in more ink and take out more dollars that then they can then stake or farm with or do other things with inside the protocol, outside the protocol, without having to worry about redemption at all for that period of time. And I think the FOMO will keep the price in the range regardless. It's going to be probably an exciting time when people are trying to get into the farms and trying to stake the dollar to get single-sided staking, on the ink dollar, and thus more or less on their ink. And so if there is any sort of dip in the price at that time, the savvy players in the ecosystem will likely buy it back up to close to $1 before the end of that 45 days regardless. And then at the end of the 45 days, the redemption will start. But I believe we'll have much stronger base than we would have seen otherwise if it was only the 14 days.
Yeah, that's one thing. When I started hearing of like you were going to move it to 45 days, truthfully, that is the funnest time. When the first, I would say, week is obviously when you can say, very first day, take out a loan, pull out a bunch of stables, throw it into the stability pool, right? What ends up happening there is the APR goes wild, and you have a lot of, you get a lot of yield, man. So it's definitely very lucrative, right? And then if you don't have to really worry about redemptions, because like let's say some people don't mind if they're redeemed, you can literally just take those stables that you put into the stability pool, buy your collateral right back like that second if you want to. And that's one of the reasons why redemptions aren't as big of a problem. I think where people, when it comes to redemptions, where people get stuck is they pull out the stables, they go and they spend it on like a meme coin that goes to zero. And now they've lost all the stable coins that they've gotten with the collateral, and now somebody's paid back the loan. So at least you don't got that problem. But essentially, they bought your collateral, in this case, ink, off of you, right?
They bought out your position, yeah. And so it's like, net neutral. If the price doesn't change, it's a net neutral. If you got redeemed against and then the price of ink went up, then it'd be like, oh, that would suck. You kind of lost your position. If the price crashed right after that, then probably you won. So it's so that's why I'd say it's a net neutral most of the time. It could go either way on being bad or good. It's not going to be that bad. It's not going to be that good. Chances are. But if it's not part of your plan, right, then I think it's it's for the kind of players we have in this ecosystem who are moving around a lot of ink, like they want to know what's going to happen next, right? So to have an idea, like if they're getting redeemed on purpose, great, and they're probably fine with that. But if they're not getting redeemed on purpose, that's that's undesirable for them, and they're going to have to rebalance their portfolio and do all the things, or buy more ink, put it into the protocol. So it just seems like work, perhaps. So if we can stretch that out for 45 days, I think we'll get more participants, particularly in these farms, which is going to mean that the ink dollar is going to be much more stable overall after that period of time. Because if we have a couple $1 million of INCD paired against DAI, like that's going to be a pretty good bootstrapping phase, and it's going to be a pretty stable coin even without redemption. But when the redemption starts, it probably won't have to happen as often, right? Because there'll be a big enough pool that you could just sell into DAI and walk out with DAI or whatever you want at that time. So I think the health of the protocol will be improved 3 times by what it would have been before, by making that period 3 times longer.
Yeah, I kind of feel like the strategy with the stability or the stability pool, aka the stable coins, right, are going to be you put in your collateral, which is going to be like ink or whatever, and then you immediately want to take those stable coins and put them in the stability pool and then just hold them in there. The idea is exactly as you say, right? Single-sided staking, okay? And just in case, like if you're worried about redemptions, right, just in case, you've got that same amount that you originally spent on it right there, so it's like it's not really too big of a deal.
You could take it out and recollateralize your position, or even pay off your loan, as long as you didn't turn those stable coins into meme coins that went to zero, or into Lambos that are hard to get back onto the blockchain. you're probably in good shape to pivot no matter what happens. And at the end of the 45-day period of time, people should probably take a look at their collateralization ratio and see where their vault lines up against other vaults. But overall, I think given that much time, we'll probably have a lot more vaults. And so the whole system will be a lot healthier. Like what I'm hoping to have much lower collateralization levels than we've seen with the other protocols.
That'll be interesting. So speaking of collateralization, right?
Yeah.
Now this is a loaning protocol. Obviously, something called liquidations can happen. Okay. So, it operates with a minimum collateral ratio, which is short for MCR of 110%. All right. So now, given that many DeFi lending platforms require much higher ratios, usually like right around in the realm of anywhere from like 150 to like 250. How does ink printer ensure system-wide stability while keeping the capital efficiency high?
Well, you can go as low as 110% collateralization ratio, but if you go below 110%, then you're eligible to be liquidated, right? Which isn't automatic. Someone has to press the button. They're incentivized to press the button by $50, which is sort of the deposit you put down. There's no interest in the loan. You put down a $50 deposit, you get the $50 back unless you get liquidated, right? So the 110% collateralization level is important, but there's also another point of 150%, which I'd want people to think of as sort of like the bare minimum you should probably float around in. If the protocol goes into what's called recovery mode, which is just when the health of the protocol isn't strong, that minimum collateralization level to prevent liquidation is boosted from 110% to 150%. I'm almost positive we haven't seen that with the 3 other forks on Pulse Chain. I don't recall it, and I've looked at them fairly often. But if it does happen, then yeah, you can get liquidated at the 150% range.
Yeah,
and
the
very least is going to cost you $50.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the Pulse Chain ones actually have not gone into recovery mode ever, and
Okay.
liquidity or liquidity, sorry,
Yep.
has I think it went into it once and almost went into it a second time. But liquidity obviously is the first one; it's the oldest
Yeah.
one,
Yeah,
and
it's
this
been
was
around
also
for
when
years.
it was brand fucking new.
Mhm.
So they obviously kind of experimented with the market a little bit, just trying to see where things are at.
Yeah.
End up going out. Whoopsies. Maybe we should fix something a little bit. But that's what happens when you're the first one. You
Oh.
make mistakes.
I've experimented with it on testnet, and like I could make it happen, right? But it's like it doesn't seem like it's likely to happen, especially with just the number of people who are likely to be using it, on the number of dollars moving around, the amount of liquidity for the ink token, like all those factors add up to it being pretty unlikely that we're going to enter the recovery mode, anytime soon at the very least.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so with that being said, now with the ink printer being governance free, right, and immutable, what happens in the case of critical bug or vulnerabilities? So how do you balance the decentralization with adaptability?
Audits.
Lots and lots of audits.
Yeah. And there has been lots and lots of audits. So, like I said, this is the 39th fork of Liquidity, right? This is the fourth on the Pulse chain, and it's the same thing on all of them, right? Like there are more novel forks of Liquidity that have other bells and whistles, but like just like Liquid Loans, Earn and Flex, like these are pretty much straight one-to-one forks of Liquidity, something that's been audited many times on many chains. No admin keys, like immutable code, which means the code can never be changed, right? So the downside to the code that can never be changed and no admin keys if it explodes inside somehow, then there's nothing that can be done to help you, right? But since this has been running for quite a few years on multiple chains, and it seems extremely unlikely that there's going to be any sort of error with the code, as long as it's the same code, which is what the audit is kind of focused on. Then I think it's actually the safer choice, because without admin keys, it means there's no way for a founder or a dev or anybody else who's associated with the protocol to mess with it with any way that would be detrimental to the community, right? There's certainly zero way that anybody can touch anything that's in your vault which is where you deposit your ink and mint your ink dollars unless you give them the private keys to your wallet, right? So it's just between the user and the blockchain as far as like how the protocol works. In fact, if the front end for the protocol went down, somebody else could spin up a new front end. There's open source code for the front end for all Liquidity forks, especially straight one-to-one forks like this. So it's like, yeah, somebody else could make a new front end for this and it would just work. They could have something that worked. They download it to their desktop and it would just work. This will be running on the blockchain forever.
You know what's really cool too? Now, obviously, we don't ever want this to actually happen, but let's say in a terrible situation that somebody actually does get your seed phrase, right? They would have to know to go to the vault and able to pull everything, right? So technically, it is a little bit hidden away from your wallet at that point.
I think that would. What depends on how savvy the hacker is. If it's just if the hacker is like your neighbor who stole your seed phrase at a party, then you need better OPSEC, but you might not figure it out. But if the hacker's like, if it's a dev type that's stolen your seed phrase somehow, then probably it shows up in DBank and stuff, I would suspect. I think it probably will. So, but so maybe not necessarily a security feature, but I think the real security feature of immutable code is that that I can't hire a temp dev to update the front end and then he can, withdraw funds from your vault. That kind of bullshit that we've seen happen on other chains with other protocols can't happen with this because it's impossible, because nobody can change the code after it's deployed, right? So any mistake that's there would be there, which is why we get audits. And any exploit that doesn't exist right now can never exist.
Absolutely, it's a lot like hex, right? Immutable code, you can't really change it.
Oh, really? Wow, I hadn't heard that before. Excellent.
Wow. It's funny too, because even with the immutable code, even though you just fork it, which means like for the most part copy and paste, you're still doing an audit just to be sure. And that right there is extremely secure and deserves a lot of respect, frankly, because it's not exactly cheap to get things audited.
No, it's not. But like you need to cover the bases of making sure that there's no security holes in your team, right? As far as like the devs that have been hired and so on and so forth. I trust these devs. I'm very, very confident they've worked on Liquidity forks before and they understand the nature of the protocol. But I think it's good for them too. Like it covers everybody's ass. So it is worth the price at the very least for advertising, which is honestly a lot of audits are more or less an advertising tool, because to give the end user confidence that this is safe, right?
Yes, absolutely. So, all right. Well, now you were talking about how there is a theoretical floor with the ink dollar. All right.
Yeah.
So, because the ability to redeem your ink dollar for ink at face value, it does create that theoretical floor.
Yep.
In what scenario might this mechanism actually fail, and how would the arbitrage of that affect it?
Sorry, what do you mean fail?
Fail as in like it's just falling. Luna, right?
Yeah.
It just absolutely dies, goes to zero.
I think if ink goes to zero, then this is probably isn't going to do very well. That would be the worst case scenario. Is that the ink token goes to zero? Then sorry guys, there's nothing I could do. The ink token could go down a lot in price. It could even go relatively quickly, right? Like let's say there was an 80% drop in one day, right? Probably a bunch of people would be liquidated. Maybe it would go into recovery mode, depending. Maybe not, but it would still maintain a $1 peg, in my opinion. I know I haven't seen that yet, and I don't think I'm going to see that, but I believe this protocol is made to survive. Yeah, that kind of 80% dip scenario. It's pretty unlikely, and even if the price of ink did go down 80%, it's much more likely that would be over the course of months, right? Or at the very least days, right? Like 20% a day for 4 days. Like, liquidity protocols can work with that, right? Like it would be hairy. A lot of people might be upset. A lot of people might make a lot of money too on the other side. So it's it's the worst days could be those kind of things where there's big dips. But unless like the collateral token becomes unsustainable itself, I don't think you're likely to see a liquidity fork fail. The only other thing that can kind of bring them down, and there's been a couple that have kind of wound down, and they end up having like, if you look up the list of like liquidity forks on DeFi Llama and you look at the TVL in them, and I don't know how accurate that stuff is, but you'll see that some, like the ones that wind down to only like the TVL is $5,000. Well, that liquidity fork's probably not working really well anymore, right? Like it will still work, but like it's going to be probably in recovery mode, and it's not gonna be a good deal. You're going to be minting something that's worth 73 cents. It's good, like you need some momentum in the protocol. Like it can't be like, it could be $100,000 and probably be absolutely fine, right? But it can't be like $200, right? It's not going to work with $200. Not really well. It would still be live and it would work, but it wouldn't like it wouldn't be of service to the people using it. And probably if there's only $200 in there, it's like, they haven't chosen the right collateral. Nobody wants to use it. So I think choosing a Richard Heart token and choosing to do it on the Pulse chain, like, yeah, people are going to be using this for many years to come. Should not be a problem.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So, all right, let's go ahead. Let's move back over to liquidations, right? So
Sure.
the liquidations of under collateralized vaults is permissionless completely.
Yeah.
Do you think that there is a possibility that it could just be exploited by bots just trying to front run transactions? And how does Ink Printer ensure a fair liquidation process?
Well, like somebody could certainly bot it to have a bot press the liquidation button. The motivation for that is that there's $50 up for grabs, right? So that's what you get paid to press the button on a liquidation. It's a lot less juicy than many other liquidity forks. Liquid loans, it's $200, right? So I don't think there's going to be a big lineup of devs like hoping to get $50 on a liquidation that may or may not happen. And we're certainly not going to try to make that easy for them. But if a user is going to get paid $50 to press the button, they might as well press the button. Somebody's going to press the button, so it could be you. Don't feel bad. But as far as exploiting that, like, should somebody, some whale decide they want to buy up, drop like $1 million into Ink and then dump it the next day so that they could, liquidate like 7 or 8 vaults and make $400, like, I guess they could. I don't think they will.
Yeah, well, see, that's where the things of like, say, batch liquidations can come in, right? So if you have something that can process multiple volts at once, right, does this create risks where high value volts could just be targeted disproportionately? And how does the algorithm determine liquidation priority?
Well, it's always the lowest collateralized vault that gets liquidated first, right? So like, it's not like if there was a high value vault with $2 million in it, then probably that guy's a player, and probably he's not going to be the lowest collateralized vault unless he's doing it on purpose for his own reasons. And certainly with the other protocols, I do believe some people do get liquidated on purpose. Many people get redeemed against on purpose as like an exit mechanism.
I agree with that.
So that's because it's not unreasonable. I've done it myself as a test, and I've done it on purpose. Be like, oh, okay, I'm just going to lower my collateralization ratio and get redeemed here, because then I can go do this, and I don't have to free up these funds, and I don't have to pay back this loan. Like there's reasons to do that. There's less reasons to get liquidated. It's also likely a taxable event if you're trying to avoid taxes. But the long and the short of it is that I don't feel like the North Korean hacker team is going to come over to Pulse Chain and try to fabricate liquidations to make $50, right? And of course there's liquidation gains that go to the stakers of the Ink dollar token, but that from somebody who's looking at a scenario where they can exploit the system, but probably unlikely to also participate with the system and stake the Ink dollar. Like if they're just a predator, they're looking for a quick fix, and it's probably not worth their time for the $50. For a user of the ecosystem who has their finger on the pulse, and if they can see there's a liquidation and they can get some liquidation gains, then that's fine, because that's one of the things that helps keep the stable coin at $1, right? So we need that. I feel like it's not going to be a big exploit as far as that goes. And not being liquidated is not that hard to do, in my opinion, right? Like, and I think people can, just you don't have to be super on top of it, but like, maintain a reasonable collateral ratio. And check on it every once in a while. Check the ink price, and if you're close to the line, then you have to stay on top of it. If you want to ride it like 162% collateralization ratio, that's fine, but it may take you may have to watch the price of ink. You may have to have an alert on your phone to see if you have to recollateralize it if the price goes down by 20%, something like. But if you want to not sleep lightly about it, then maintain a 250% collateralization ratio, and you're unlikely to get liquidated overnight at the very least, right?
That would have to be one hell of a move to have you get liquidated off of 250% when technically the liquidation point is going to be 110, right? So that's got to be one hell of a move. I'll just say that. All right. So given that liquidators receive the ink dollar as well as ink as compensation, how does the protocol balance fair rewards for liquidators while preventing unnecessary liquidations?
Sorry, could you repeat that one again?
Yeah. Given that the liquidators receive the ink dollar and ink as compensation, how does the protocol balance fair rewards for the liquidators?
Fair rewards for the liquidators. Okay. Yeah. So the liquidators, like, first off, there's the $50 that you get for pressing the button, which I think is enough motivation to press a button if the button is available to press. There will be somebody to do it. The stakers of the ink dollar INCD inside the protocol, they get a portion of the liquidations goes to them, right? So they're going to get. Let me just pull up my screen here. So they're going to get ink tokens as part of their liquidation gains, right? And they're also getting the print token to stake as well. So them getting paid out that they get. They're motivated to stake a stable coin single-sided. They end up the way the protocol works, they end up paying part of their stable coin maybe to get some of the ink, but they're always in a winning position on that. Like, it's not going to be a negative. It should be profitable to be in the stability pool at any given time. So, and as far as a person getting liquidated goes, like it could be at the very least they lost $50, probably more in most cases, but it could definitely be even a positive thing depending what happens, right? Like if there is a big, if you're have a very low collateralization level and you've already taken out, like you put in $10,000 worth of ink and you've taken out $8,000, and then the price dropped by 80% suddenly, right? Extreme example, but it's not impossible. Nobody's knocking on your door. Like, Fast Abdoul is not coming to your house saying, "Hey, where's my $8,000?" You get to keep that, right? So if the price of ink goes down by 80%, you still have that $8,000 as long as you didn't spend it on, something terrible. I was going to say something more fun. I'm going to stick with that. Then you could turn around and buy back the bottom of the ink price and have a way bigger ink bag than you had before, right?
Yeah, that's the interesting thing about that. Highly unlikely, to be truthful. So you definitely don't want to bank on something dropping right away.
Yeah.
However, that is a possibility. Now, when it does come to liquidations, usually the way or sort of the strategy you want to use to purposely liquidate yourself is actually to exit your position. So most people understand exiting your position like this. You go on to a decentralized exchange and you go and you swap whatever coin you want to get out of for another coin or a stable coin, right? Now, whenever you do that, though, you're messing around with the liquidity pools. And when you do that, well, you're changing the prices, aka red candles and green candles, right? Yep. Now, you're hurting when you're selling like that, you're hurting the price chart. However, in this particular case with this protocol, you still get the stables. You minted out your stables. That's worth what you put in. But if you get liquidated, you've technically pulled out as many stables as possible. And that liquidation event that happens actually gets spread out to everybody else on the protocol. And so now what you've ultimately sold your ink, in this case, right, to everybody on the protocol. And you could say that everybody that you gave your ink to technically gave you their stable coins for it, right? You
Yep.
could, in one sense, you could kind of see it as like a peer-to-peer direct, or maybe even like over the counter. That'd be another word for it. Over the counter type of exit. That's not going to harm the price chart at all.
Well, it depends though, right? Because you're not harming the price chart per se. Like let's say it was a whale, right? And the whale, like, which is really some of the only people this might make sense to, because like, oh, if I sell my ink, I'm gonna take this 15% slippage because I'm selling $2 million or some silly number, right? So they could choose to get liquidated, and basically risking about 10% in order to do so. But the result would be that ink would end up in the hands of others, and they may well dump the chart themselves, right? So you're distributing it to potentially weaker hands. So I don't think it's a play. I think getting redeemed against is much more reasonable as far as like exiting a position. It'd likely be more gradual, like especially if you had, like, let's say there was like a big player who had $2 million worth of ink, right? And they just had a low collateralization level, like let's say 130%. So it's likely they'd be close to the bottom and that they could get redeemed against. It would likely happen gradually, probably not instantly. And it wouldn't necessarily cost them anything at all, right? And it wouldn't be dumping ink on the market in the same way as if you got liquidated, which is like an all at once event versus like a gradual event. And that is just, yeah, I really don't think there's a really good reason to get liquidated. I haven't found one yet. Have you? Versus
No,
being
not
redeemed against, right? Like
yeah,
apart from it being instant, like, yeah, like you've already taken out the stable coin, right? So, like it's, you have the stable coin, so you
yeah,
don't have to look at it again, but
yeah. Again, the problem you run into though, and I think this is kind of like what ended up happening to me, right? Was
yeah,
I took out the stable coin, then I went and spent it on something else right away. Now, a lot of that happened to be PTGC, and that was a pretty good winner, right? So not necessarily terrible. However, I had to, when it came to that event, right, I had to actually go bring more funds in that I didn't have at the time, and it was Pulse X. Pulse X actually went up. So I ended up paying for more expensive Pulse X.
right,
And it's
yeah,
like,
yeah. If you don't
okay,
catch the wave in the right direction, yeah, it's going to cost you.
yeah. Yep. And it was unfortunate. However, when I think about back, well, number one, how quickly I was able to receive those funds to get back what I originally got redeemed for. But then also what I ended up spending those stables on, overall, it was a winning play. But just
Yeah,
I didn't know about it in at the time, right? So,
yeah, yeah, because it could
2020.
have gone the other way, and then you wouldn't have had an option to have something to to recollateralize your vault, etc.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's why what I've kind of learned about uh liquidity forks and just liquidity in general, it's especially when you have such a highly volatile asset such as, like Pulse X, all Hex, all those. What you really truly want to do with them is you want the stable coin that you pull out, you really truly want to just keep that on the side just in case you do get redeemed, even liquidated, right?
Yep,
Because even if you get liquidated, you can just go buy it right back.
totally.
And that's that issue. The other thing though is if you do hold that stable coin, you are able to then, like, say something brand new comes out and you really like it, you're able to actually kind of almost borrow from that pool and then
Yep.
go and buy up that new thing.
You can
Obviously, you
keep
want to pay
your
back
ink
then.
position, right? Like, because if you borrow from you add your ink to the protocol, you borrow the stable coin, that ink is still tied to your wallet, and nobody else can access it, and you can pay off the same amount that you borrowed at any time and get your ink back. So you can sort of keep your ink positioning and then buy something else that you believe in. I think with things like RH assets, that would be like a safer play than a potentially new community or a meme coin or something. But if you were right, it would pay off, of course, in any scenario. But you still have access to the price appreciation on that ink token if it goes up in price. So Crypto Jack in the chat, I think, has a relevant question that ties into this. What would happen if to the protocol if ink does a 10x or 100x, right?
I was just about to go there.
Okay, perfect. Because I think this ties in very well. So you have ink in the
Yes.
protocol. Let's say you put in 10 grand, right? You take out 5K, right? So you're at a reasonable collateralization level. It's not, nothing's too crazy. You can, you have $5,000. If ink doubles in price, then the ink you have in the protocol that was worth 10K is now worth 20K. Well, you could pay back $5,000 and take out $20,000 worth of ink, and nobody else can do it for you. It has to be you. That's your ink. Or you can take out another $5,000 and be at the same collateralization level. Then if ink doubles again, right, and your 20K worth of ink is then worth 40K, right? Okay, deal. You can take out another $10,000 and still be at the same collateralization level, or you can pay back the 10 grand and take 40K worth of ink, and so on and so forth, all the way up to the 100x that Jack's talking about, right? At which point you'd be withdrawing, millions, but it's possible. There's no cap on the amount of dollars that can be minted. So let's go.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. That type of idea right there is actually, that's more of a whales game. But it is true. If let's say you decided you wanted to go and sell $1 million worth of ink on spot market, right? You know what happens? Whack, slippage hits you over the head for a lot, right? Now, this is a way that you can, number one, retain your original principal or the original amount of coins, original principal in coins that you have in whatever crypto you're doing. In this case, right, it's ink. However, you're also able to continually pull out more and more stables and then use those for whatever you want. So now you kind of, especially if you put those stables to use where you're able to get some kind of yield going, and you'll be able to then take that yield and pay back the original cost of having to put those in, right? Of the stable coins that you've taken out. So now that you've paid it all back, you've pulled out your $1 million worth of ink. Well, now you also have these other assets that you bought that are continually yielding you more dollars. Now, I kind of see this as almost like a house, right? In real estate, when you go and you buy a house, you originally take out a loan from the bank. Okay, high interest, by the way.
Indeed.
I'm pretty sure there's zero interest on this protocol, right?
That's right. Yeah, zero interest loans, right? And it's kind of like what you're talking about, but it's more like you've paid off your house and now you're borrowing against it for zero interest, right?
Yeah.
So the ink you put in the vault is your house, and then you can take a loan out against that, right? But there's no interest on the loan. So it's and then if you do something smart with the money that you borrowed, right, that could be a beneficial thing. So you've borrowed money, which ideally in most places I believe is not a taxable event, versus swapping, like selling it is almost always a taxable event. And then you can take that and do something smart with it, likely right on the same protocol page, right? The single-sided staking is pretty hard to beat as far as a low-risk option. The liquidity farming, stables to stables, is pretty much a single-sided staking. Like that ink dollar to DAI farm is like, that's very close to being single-sided staking when it's just stable coins, because the risk is of impermanent loss is very low, and any fees you earn are just bonus, and then whatever print token is paying out. So personally, I would choose between whichever of those options had better APR on any given day, which I was going to do. So that'll be cool. And then there's a strong chance that there'll be other farming options on other protocols. I know a guy.
Gee, I wonder who that could be.
But more farms are better, right? And more liquidity is better. So with Fux and 2Fux, there's a possibility of having up to 8 tokens in a pair. So I could see there being a farm that was like the ink dollar paired against the other stability. The other liquidity forks on Pulse Chain, that will allow you to have strategies to incorporate taking leverage on all Richard Hart assets, turning them into stable coins, and then farming those stable coins against each other. That'd be pretty cool. So I can't guarantee those will be farms. It's up to the Fux teams, which pools get gauged, which is just shop talk for being farms, but it seems like it could be possible.
Yeah, I think that would be really awesome. That's an idea that I was kind of thinking to myself, like, why wouldn't you make that? You can make the liquid loans, the earn, flex, and now ink printers, stable coins, literally just its own thing on 2Fux. I think that
and pair them all together, right? Like why not? Because I think the overall advantage would be good for all of them. Yeah, I think you do want to have some pairings that are against stables from Ethereum, or just like outside stables that aren't part of the Pulse Chain ecosystem, right? But it would totally support all of them to pair against each other as well, because then they all share the mechanism of redemption and they all have the same sort of format of ceiling and floor.
Exactly. And if you pair them with, say, USDC and USDT, well, we won't say DAI anymore because that one's basically going away at this point. But the Ethereum ones, right? If you're able to kind of pair them together, then what you get is you get people who are going to be coming over here from Ethereum and making those pools larger, thicker, which means less ups, less downs, more stable overall, right? And I do believe that the closer you bond those together, the more we don't have to worry about the volatility of these stables going down to 95 cents and then back up to $1.05, right? That's not going to be as much of a worry anymore.
No, yeah, totally. Like you need there to be sufficient liquidity, even if it was just paired against Pulse. Like, I think pairing against other stables is better, but like you need there to be sufficient liquidity for whales to be able to sell out of their ink dollar if they want to, right? Like into whatever they want. Like let's say they want to take their ink dollar and buy Hex. Like you don't want them to pay 20% slippage. That's not reasonable. So like we have to build up liquidity in those initial days to make the ink dollar strong, and we've seen that with the other liquidity forks. They've done okay as far as liquidity goes, but I'm going to shoot a little bit higher, and part of the 45 days is going to be to incentivize people, which I think is the key thing here, right? Like we're not begging the community to do it. We're incentivizing the community to mint the ink dollar and to pair it with stable coins and other coins on Pulse Chain to their benefit. Which is going to make a stronger stablecoin, which will also benefit them, and will likely make the ink price go up, which will probably benefit a couple people.
Just a few people. You know what I think is funny is this token is literally called the incentive token. All right.
Yep.
And with the incentive token, you've kind of created a little bit of a kind of like looking into the mirror where it just goes on infinitely, where you have the incentive token, then you got the incentive token for the incentive token. So I believe that one is called Print, right?
Print token. Yep.
That is the incentive token. So Print captures the fee revenue that's generated from redemptions and borrowing. So what additional utility could be introduced maybe in the future to further enhance its value proposition beyond just staking rewards?
Well, as far as the protocol itself, there can be no changes because it's immutable code. But initially on day one, there will be a farm for Print. We're going to have like Print versus Ink. I think it's reasonable that, they're both volatile assets. They can be paired against each other. So they can pull each other up in price potentially. But there can be third-party applications where there could be additional ink farms other places as well. And again, I suspect that could happen. We could have some Print farms other places apart from within the protocol. But initially, there'll be a Print farm that is Print to Ink, where the liquidity is on Pulse X V2, so you're earning both fees as well as bonus additional Print tokens. But the main utility for the Print token is always going to be staking inside the protocol, right? Like just single-sided staking with no time lock, where you're earning the redemption gains of the Ink token. So that's why it's the Print token. It's printing ink, right? It'll print ink right into your wallet, and you get issuance gains of INCD, the ink dollar. Every time somebody mints a dollar, you get a piece, right? So people will be very incentivized to stake. Long term, likely yield farming is may pay more with the Print token than the staking, but the staking is very safe being single-sided, no impermanent loss. And it's, it's very simple. You don't have to think about it too much. If you're holding this token, you might as well stake it and get that benefit, right? So I would encourage people to consider that option. But for the, some players who understand liquidity farming and see that there's, opportunities maybe on 2Fucks and other places, they should look into that. So, and I have a couple ideas of how, we could make some pretty cool pools, how there could be things built on top of, even this fork of liquidity to enhance it further. And that's one of the beautiful things about immutable code, like Hex, is makes it a platform where other teams, other developers can build on top of it, because the code is the code and it's not going to change. So it's hard to build on top of something that could change. This won't change. Whatever it does, it does. So yeah, there's totally possibilities that we could have, additional functionality in the future. People built on top of liquidity on Ethereum, things like chicken bonds, stuff like that. That could work here too.
So on Fox, you're able to do up to 8 coins.
Yeah.
Now, that means that what you could possibly do is take the core 4s and then the core 4 liquidity forks, right? And you could just combine those all together. There you go.
Yeah,
that would be an interesting pool.
You can have them all together, or the core 4 liquidity forks and all of their tokens, because they have 2 tokens each, like the stable coin and the staking token, right? Like that. There's opportunities there.
Fun.
I think the thing about liquidity farming right now on the Pulse chain is you want to minimize your impermanent loss, right? So if you have 2 assets that are likely to move up and down together, or not move at all as far as price goes, like stable coins, then it becomes a really good play for safety, right? But like if you have assets that aren't correlated with each other, then you'll likely make more fees, like swap fees, because there'll be more movement between them. But you're gonna potentially lose value if you're not planning on doing it for a very long term. And liquidity farming should be a long-term play. I could recommend to most people 90 days. Though on something like stable coins, like, if you want to do it for a week, there's not really a downside.
Yeah, there really isn't. And especially when you do have like single-sided staking. There, unless it's a locked of some kind, just throw it in there for a little while, just let it go, get some rewards for it. You'll be, and then pull it out when you're ready to do whatever it is you need to do with them.
So
that's
fees are cheap on the Pulse chain. Like even if you only had $400 in your wallet, like you might as well pay the 20 cents or less to stake it for a week while you're deciding what you're going to do with your $400. There's almost no downside to that, right? And I can't say what the APRs are going to be, but I think they'll be high enough that would be a viable option, that people could, stake $50 and come back in a month, right? Like why not? There's not, not really a downside to that. But I think there's going to be some players like that are going to be moving millions in this, and that are going to, going to be staking a lot. They're going to be earning a lot of print tokens, and then via those print tokens, they're going to be earning a lot of ink. I think this will actually pay more ink than people are currently making on the PulseX farms right now, because APRs are terrible.
Well, considering that basically, what is it? The APRs are down like 99%. I think we could probably be making more money anywhere else.
Exactly. Like the APR on PulseX to Pulse is 0.37%. And you're not earning swap fees. So that's it. That's all you get is 0.37%. So it's like, even if Ink 10x in price, you'd be at 3.7%. It's still not really good enough. And that's on purpose. Like clearly Richard's reduced the APRs on those farms so that people would leave the farms, right? Like that's what he's pushing them to do, right? Remove your liquidity. I think the reason he'd want them to remove their liquidity is so that it's easier for somebody to insert millions of dollars to pump the price with much, much thinner liquidity. That seems like the only logical thing. But I think it makes this protocol perfect timing, because we can provide better yield on than that farm. We can provide utility for the Ink token, which is suddenly much, much rarer, because the inflation has gone down a lot. I think it's been reduced 4 times, and it could be reduced further, right? Like right now, the inflation's at 0.03 ink per second. Like it could be reduced to 0.01 ink per second. Like that's totally possible with how the Master Chef contract works. So yeah, it could be near zero. I think I'm not sure if it can be turned off completely, but it's almost turned off right now.
It might as well, right? It
Yeah.
basically is, and that's you know, I saw recently that Rackham Rochelle was going back into the Pulse X farms.
Mm,
It's like, hey,
interesting.
bro, I don't know what you're doing, bro, but how about you just come over here to this protocol instead? It'll probably treat you better right now.
Yeah. Let's not tell him.
Yeah, there we go.
He doesn't need to know.
He doesn't need to know. I know for a certain fire whale's gonna love you. That dude loves ink. That's
He
his
does like the ink. Yeah.
that's his
Yeah, and
main
he'll
thing.
be doing quite a bit better here than he's doing right now with some of his farms. So
Mhm.
I might tell him. I might knock on his door.
So, in looking at the incentive token for the incentive token, then
Yeah,
let's talk some strategies.
sure.
So here now with the single-sided staking idea, right, where you simply, hey, put in the ink, pull out the stables, put into the stability pool, just kind of hold them there, let it go, right? Okay, that's a fair idea, right? And you could use that that yield to maybe like pay down your debt. Now, what you could also do though is you can use those stables to then go buy the print token and then put those in instead. So
Good.
what you could do then is you could do an arbitrage between the APRs, whatever is highest, right? Now, if you're on the print token, now this is a little bit more risky, obviously, because print is going to be a little more volatile.
Indeed.
However, if we're to believe that we're kind of just in it's only really going to go up from here, like maybe if print is at like a bottom, right? You really can't lose unless it goes to zero.
Yeah, it won't have any sell pressure, but keep in mind that people are basically they are able to get the print token for free by
Mhm.
staking that stable coin. So if they have ink, which is the only thing they potentially would have to buy, if they didn't have it already, and most people got their ink for free as well, like which
Yeah.
is also great via the farm. It's no longer really viable, but if they've already done that, they have it, they're wondering what to do, mint it into the ink dollar, stake the ink dollar, and then they're going to get the print token, and then they can stake the print token to get more ink, right? And then that ink, and they'll also get some ink via the liquidations. But then the ink that they get and the ink dollars that they also get via the print token, they can stake in the protocol again, right? So there's a built-in loop there where all they have to bring to the table to participate is ink, right? And then they can turn into the INCD ink dollar, and then from there they get the free print token, and from there they can stake that, and they're going to probably be earning some ink as well as ink dollars via those, and then stake again, stake again, stake again. They could increase their position a lot. So if they were doing something, they could use part of the ink dollar that they borrowed to buy the print token to stake it. In the early days of the protocol, I suspect the math of that could be great, but they could also just uh, withdraw the ink dollar, use it to buy more ink, increase their ink position, right? And rinse and repeat that, making their vault bigger and bigger and bigger. Versus buying the print token, just keep getting the print token for free, staking it to get more ink, and then take that ink and make your vault bigger and bigger. And then if you do get that 10x, 20x, 50x on the price of ink, it'll be on a much larger amount of ink than you would have had, right? Like you could have 10x the size of your bag yourself and then experience a 10x price appreciation, right? And be in a very, very strong position, right? Like somebody could start with $1,000. The minimum vault size is 500, right? So they could come in with, you want to come in with more than that because that puts you at a minimum collateralization level, but you could come in with 700, 800, $1,000, and and you could leverage that over a period of time to being $10,000 worth of ink, and then get a 10x on your $10,000, right? Like that would probably feel pretty good.
So yeah, here's the wild thing. Okay, I want to paint a picture for you.
Let's
Now,
do it.
I started off with 300 ink. Okay, and I actually farmed myself up to 1,000 ink.
Nice.
That's pretty good. That's all free. So that's 1,000 ink. That's for free. Okay.
Yep. Free.
Now 1,000 ink for free. I put that 1,300 ink into the protocol here. And I'm able to pull out currently, I think that would be like what, 1,300, $1,600, right? And that would be dollar for dollar. So maybe I pull out like 600, maybe $800 there. That might
Yeah,
work out
sounds
pretty
safe
good.
enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep, safe enough. And so let's just say 800. So then I take that $800 and I'm able to put it directly into the stability pool.
Yep.
And from there, I just start receiving more free incentive tokens, incentive, right? The print token. And then from there, I can literally just continually. Do you see how much free money I'm getting? I started with $300, and next thing you know, I've got thousands and thousands and thousands, literally just because it's magic, baby.
It just works.
It
Yeah.
just
No,
works.
it works because of the code. But I think your strategy is probably pretty good, especially for the early adopters. Like if you're in there in the first couple of days of the protocol launching,
Yeah.
and you have print tokens staked when people are minting their first stable coins, right? Like it could add up really quickly. I think there's going to be a push towards that. Obviously, that'll could affect the price performance. And I think the lack of a sacrifice will also make the price performance look different than what we've seen on some of these other tokens.
Yeah, actually, could you dig into that? Because I know that there's a little bit of a thing where you're not doing a sacrifice at all.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I don't think Flex did a sacrifice either, but I know that Earn did one, and also Liquid Loans. And Liquid Loans, a lot of people weren't exactly happy about it.
Yeah,
So yeah, kind of what's your theory on this?
I'll give you like a rough overview. I can't really speak for the other teams, right? But like we do know that roughly speaking, Liquid Loans raised $55 million or thereabouts, right? All in stable coins, right? Not in volatile assets, all stables. So a lot of overhead where people were looking to recoup that value, right? I don't think most have. So that's there's a lot of sell pressure there. As far as the Power City team, I believe they announced that they were doing the Earn liquidity fork right very close to the end of their sacrifice. So like I think a lot of people had sacrificed just for their Watt token and for other things that they talked about, and not and weren't really planning on the Earn token as part of the package. For a lot of people, that came as like a bonus, right? But it is still connected to that, that sacrifice stigma, right? There still would have been some sell pressure because it was, in the end, I don't think this wasn't what was promised exactly, but it was given out, I think, to the people who did sacrifice, or the ones who received that token. So, you're going to have some innate sell pressure attached to that. With the Flex liquidity fork that used Hex for collateral, it was literally just put out there for the community. So very similar to what we're looking at here. So it's that would probably be the closest one to compare to. However, I think there will be a big difference in terms of price performance just because of the part of the market that I feel that we're going into. So I think we're pushing towards a up only time in the market, whereas like those previous forks had to largely deal with down only times in the market, right? So if Bitcoin starts pushing up over 100K again, and maybe we see a 200K Bitcoin this cycle, like the ride for people participating with this protocol starting at not at the bottom or anything like that, but in a bullish time when things are going up, I think there'd be less sell pressure on a token like this that you get as a reward for participating, that you can then stake to get further rewards. I think people are more likely to reward tokens like this do well in bull markets. They don't do as well in bear markets, right? So I think we're going to see a little bit different set of numbers on this. But the fact that people also didn't pay for their ink, right? They got that for free too, right? And then they're going to get this for free attached to that, right? Like it's not going to have that same thing that sacrifice tokens have, where they're like, oh, I put in this much money, I need to recover this much value. No, I got this for free, and now I got this for free, and now this is earning me money too. I think they're more likely to just hold because it didn't affect their core bags. Everything they got, they potentially got for free, right? So different mindset, different feel, less fear attached to it. You know, and yeah, you know, one of the best founders that went around as well too.
I really like that theory. It's certainly is interesting, but you are correct. You know, the same sort of way that I literally just got done describing the magic of free money. I would tend to agree with you. You know, it's if you have the mindset of, hey, I put in $1,000 for the sacrifice and I got like $100 of loan token out of it.
Yeah.
That's kind of rough, you know.
Yep.
I
That'd be
could
rough.
see that. Yeah. However, if you just get a bunch of tokens for free, it's like, hey, look, more free tokens. Woohoo!
Yeah. It's happy. And then you might look into like, well, are these tokens good? Like anybody who's using this protocol, nobody's going to use this by accident, right? So if you're like you're minting a stable coin using ink, and then you'll probably understand, okay, this print token, you know, like they'll probably look close enough to see that I can stake this and get more ink. Like, you know, if you're here for the ink, then you know, do I have a deal for you?
Exactly. All right. So, unlike protocols that use variable interest rates, right? Ink Printer relies on dynamic borrowing fees. So, how does this compare to, say, other DeFi borrowing models? And what are the advantages and or trade-offs?
Um, well, there's no borrowing fee, right? There's a dynamic fee for redemptions and stuff like that.
Okay, so it's what we're talking about there is a fee whenever you do get like liquidated, or is you get actually do you get a fee for getting redeemed as well or redeeming?
Well, the redemption fee when you make a redemption, like it'll go up if there's like a bunch of redemptions in a row. You'll see the redemption fee creep up, right? So
Oh,
it to disincentivize people from like just doing redemptions constantly, right? But like so, like there'll be a fee. I believe it moves up to 5%, but it starts at
mm,
like near nothing. Depend to do a redemption, right? To redeem your ink dollar for for a dollar worth of ink, right? So that's sort of a built-in mechanism to just make the redemption first off pay the community, like pay the print token stakers, as well as to make it less gameable, right? So that it
yeah.
can't be exploited.
So with the community in issuances of print decreasing over time, what measures are in place to sustain engagement and incentivization? Sorry, excuse me, I can't English right now.
Yeah.
As emissions slow down.
Well, I think the emission slowing down like is in itself a way to ensure price performance of the token, right? So you have a token that's going down in inflation basically, and there's a set quantity of the print tokens. I believe it's 100 million, and they'll never be more than that. They're locked in the protocol and they're coming out over time, right? And the speed that they come out just becomes slower and slower and slower. So the result is that in the early days people are getting more, and in later days they're getting less, like per day. So potentially it ends up being worth more valuable, or at least slowing down any sort of price depreciation because there's less to sell in the market on any given day than there was the day before.
Yeah, technically that means that the more that gets bought up and or like perhaps burned someday, might have something like that. They just get more and more rare, which definitely would be an incentivization of some kind, right? But it would have to be because it's immutable code. If you were to incentivize certain things, you would have to actually build on top of it, which I do wonder, and I'm kind of curious if that is a possibility in the future. If you can build on top of one of these forks and start maybe adding to things to it.
You could, like, because it is immutable code, right? Like it's predictable. I think the more likely scenario is that people would like, since the front ends for liquidity codes tend to be open source, people could make their own front end that had extra bells and whistles and probably charge some sort of a fee for that. And we'll like with liquidity on Ethereum, you can see there's like 20 front ends, and some of them have like extra bells and whistles, rebalancing things, and so on and so forth. And with Power City, they have their amplifier protocol that gives you a bunch of strategies to use with the liquidity forks, as well as the Magic Carpet Ride guys have some additional utilities for liquidity forks too. So that's already kind of been done in the Pulse chain. And when Tetra comes out, probably they'll have some additional utility that can be added to liquidity forks, rebalancing things like quick, like having a quick action happen if you get liquidated or redeemed against, like automatic buyback, stuff like that. You could program in to some sort of tool. So I think the most likely things are going to be stuff like the Power City amplifier, and maybe those guys will even choose to add add ink printer to their list of supported protocols. Right now, I believe they're supporting their 2 liquidity forks plus liquid loans. So it wouldn't be a big step necessarily, though I think it's pretty heavy code. Like, it wouldn't be an overnight thing, but they could totally add it to the list.
Possibly. So I want to go ahead and let's transition over here into just maybe clearing the air a little bit about what kind of happened with the one that was right before this that was going to come out. In fact, I did a show on it. I think I was the first one to do a show on it with you about it. But yeah, P stability. So you decided to just kind of put that on the back burner for now and move on to the ink for now. So if you want to go ahead and speak to sort of why you did that, or kind of what happened there.
You bet. So initially, the plan was I was going to make a liquidity fork that used PDI for collateral. This was before any of the ink inflation had been reduced, right? So ink is definitely looks a lot better right now. So that's one of the reasons for the change. But the main reason was the PDI community didn't really embrace the concept. So I'm not going to shove it down their throats. If they don't want a stable coin, then I won't give them a stable coin. They can make their own, or hope that PDI goes to $1. So I wish them luck with that.
All right. Well, I agree with you on that. And yeah, I mean, maybe someday they'll start embracing it and you'll bring it back, right?
Yeah, the code. I still have the code. I still have the front end. Like it wouldn't be a long deployment process. But it may or may not be a viable choice at that time, right? So I'll have to, if by the time they ask for it, it may or may not be the play if that's on the table. So we'll just have to see how the cards fall and check with that. But for now, I think ink is definitively the better choice. It's an RH token. It has quite a bit of liquidity. It has a very strong audience, and I can just tell from the community reactions, right? Like between for the PDI community versus the ink Pulse Hex community, it definitely got a much better reception. So I'll go where I'm treated best. Thank you.
Yeah, I can see that, and it makes sense too, because we've already got the Pulse Hex and the Pulse X liquidity forks, right? So obviously people are going to embrace ink. Also, yes, this is very well timed, because I mean, I don't know, maybe you are RH, or maybe you're in direct contact with them, right? Because you knew you could be, because you obviously knew that he was going to be slashing the Pulse X farms, right? And in exchange, you're like, I'm going to create this liquidity fork over here with ink, so that way nobody's actually losing the APRs.
That is very suspicious, isn't it?
Yeah, very suspicious. I wonder, huh?
Wow.
Alrighty. So what is how do you envision ink printer within the next 3 or 5 years? Do you think it's going to be vitally important for the broader Pulse chain ecosystem, or do you think that this could be something that could actually be perhaps brought onto other chains as well, and maybe have wrapped version of ink?
Yeah, I don't see the utility at the moment in bringing wrapped versions of ink to another chain. Like, if certainly, could there be a liquidity fork on another chain? Sure, I could do that, but there's not a huge incentive to bridge ink to another chain, as I understand at the moment. There could be something in the future, where that's a thing, right? But as far as the long term goes, I think this protocol, given that it's immutable and has no admin keys, it's just gonna run. It's just gonna do its thing, right? So, which is one of the nice things as a founder. Once I launch this, there's kind of no buttons for me to press anymore, right? after you press deploy, like now you're done. So yes, I will still talk about it. We will have discussions, right? There'll be strategies. There'll be there'll be other things, other farms, perhaps things on 2Fox or other protocols where I'll champion farms for ink and print and the ink dollar. But yeah, it doesn't have anything I have to do after I press the button to make it work. So somebody's got to pay the website bill. I hope that happens. And if it didn't happen, then somebody else could put up a front end, right? It's not it's open source code. So I think this one's going to be there. It's going to be there for a long time. It's probably going to have a significant effect on the ink price. It will probably have a notable effect on the amount of stable coins that are on the Pulse chain. Both those are good things. And more stable coins that are native to Pulse chain is a good thing because it removes a lot of the bridge risk that you might see otherwise, and will probably attract other stable coins to come onto the Pulse chain, either people launching more native stable coins or bridging over more stable coins to pair up against the existing stable coins that are here. So stable coins will bring more stable coins, and during the bear market, this can be super important. But like, it's going to result in a lot more ink holders and a lot more long-term ink holders. So as far as the ink token goes, like, I see almost no downside in to people who are bullish on ink with this protocol. There's nothing bad about locking up ink. There's nothing bad about making yield on your ink via this protocol, in my opinion. As long as you do your homework, do your research, make sure you understand which buttons you're pressing and why you're pressing them. This is almost 100% bullish, in my opinion.
Yeah. Don't press the 100% pull out, so that way you get liquidated instantly, right? You definitely don't want to take that huge of a loan.
It doesn't let you get liquidated. Like, you can't liquidate yourself by, like, you can't reduce your collateral below the liquidation level. It stops.
Yeah.
So, but you could put yourself in a bad position if you didn't understand what's going on. But
exactly.
At this point, this is our fourth liquidity fork. I think the big players know what's going on, and I'm more than willing to to teach people, especially new people, if they want to know how this works. Then to come to the Telegram room, they can talk to me about it. We'll figure it out. We're gonna have some more instructional videos, and the truth is, you can go through like Jesse from Power City has probably made like 15 hours of videos on how liquidity forks work, right? Like, you could spend a whole day watching videos about liquidity forks on the Pulse chain, and most of the rules apply to each one more or less in the exact same way. So it's that the knowledge is available, and as well as on Ethereum, like, it's the exact same thing. And the reason it's the exact same thing is because it works, it's proven, people trust it, right? And there's like basically doesn't have any hacking potential or anything like that. So it's it is a good choice, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I can tell you right now that Degen Roundtable, we have almost 6 hours of talking about Earn and liquid phones. Yeah. Yep. And like Tracker, that was one of his pet projects. He went into it and he really got detailed about it. So that's just another video you can go watch, right? We got a couple of them over at the Degen Roundtable on YouTube. By the way, I am a part of Degen Roundtable, so like and subscribe over there because they are a fantastic group. Yeah, and every once in a while, you hear of them, right? They kind of pop up here and there.
You still got that tall, bald, smiley guy? Is he still around there?
The tall, bald, smiley guy.
I can't remember.
You're talking about the guy who does this all the time, right?
That's the guy, the really excited one.
I think he's around a little bit.
I like that.
Every once in a while. He may or may not have been on the show with me last night. He may or may not be on the show with me tomorrow night as well. Alrighty, so now Farmer J actually down here has a good question in the chat.
Okay.
And of course, it's when launch. He's wondering if it's 2 weeks until launch.
Well, Farmer J, the truth is that it's the rule is it's 2 weeks after the last person asks. So as of now, this very moment, it's going to be 2 weeks until the next person asks.
Oh boy, and we're gonna have a bunch of people asking in the chat now. It's gonna be a race.
Yeah, I got a button I press here and it just resets the clock every time somebody asks. So yeah, no problem.
I love it.
But like I said, like the audit's just about done, and like I talked to the audit team today, and the code's done. So it will be a very short period of time. I'm going to be in Vegas next week. I think you're going to be there too.
I might be in Vegas next week.
There we go.
I think we might be speakers, right? I think you're speaking a couple of times.
Am I? Oh shit! What am I talking about? Oh well, I'll find out. But if it launches, it would probably be when it launches. It'll probably be after Vegas. So we'll I'll do that week, and then once I know everything's perfect and is ready to go, I'll probably give a 7-day notice. This isn't going to be a stealth launch. This is not a meme coin, right? We're not worried about snipers. It's this is a utility protocol for the Ink token, and so I'll give as much notice as I can. I'll announce it on Twitter. I'll announce it in the Telegram room, and make sure people know that this is coming, so we can have good adoption in the early days.
Alrighty, so now you decided to do something a little bit funky, right? You decided to go into the code, put it through ChatGPT, kind of see what it had to say, right? You want to go ahead and tell us that story of the findings of what it is you found, right? And also, why did you do it? Why did this pop into your head?
Well, it just came to me the other day, and when we're talking about the code, in this case, we're talking about the code for Ink, the Ink token, right?
Correct. Correct.
So I was thinking about it the other day, and I was like, okay, what's Richard playing at here? What are the reasons he would reduce inflation? The obvious one is to shake people out of the farms, but I was like, could there be more, right? So I started playing around with the Ink code, and I looked at it, pulled up the master chef, and then I copy pasted it into ChatGPT, right? And it was like, ChatGPT, tell me what this says. I could have given it to my devs, but I want those guys doing other things. It's I'll get just the summary answer from ChatGPT, which is fairly decent usually. And this is what it said. So it said, use case, governance token. Excuse me.
Actually, are you reading off of your X post right now?
I'm reading off of Telegram post, but same thing. If you want to pull it up, if you have it handy.
Yeah, I was thinking we could pull it up so that way people could read it as well.
Yeah, let's do that. Because that covered it.
Mm-hmm. I give people a chance to read it. Yeah, it's really fascinating with what you found. And I started kind of looking into it a bit, and there's some really interesting stuff that Ink could be used for, that I ended up kind of discovering. And it's brand new too, because I only started really researching into it today. And yeah, so we'll get into that here in a bit. But yeah, let's go ahead and just bring this up, the screen up, and then we'll just take a look at what you found originally.
Cool.
Mrs. Producer is saying no screen has been pulled up yet.
Nope. I see.
Oh, wait, what?
I don't see it.
Is it just not clicking on for you? Oh, wow. We do it live, guys.
Let's do it.
Oh, Jesus. All right, but okay, fine. You could be the reader. Everybody, shh, listen.
Okay, I got to find my page again now.
Oh, boy.
So, so ChatGPT says this is a governance token. Users can delegate voting power and participate in on-chain votes. It supports minting, burning, and delegation, making it ideal for staking, governance, or a DeFi reward system. All right, so it has a governance, like a DAO function built right into it. Right, so if Ink was going to be the DAO token of Pulse Chain, it already has that code. I believe PulseX also has the same options as well. So, but why does Ink have so much code if it was just a reward token? It literally just could have been like a zero code ERC20 meme coin type token with no additional built-in functionality, but it has a very specifically built-in functionality for delegating and voting. So, I feel like Ink could be the best play for RH if he's going to turn the ecosystem into a DAO, which has certain advantages. And we can think about the kind of stuff that would be voted on. The most obvious one to me and the most interesting one would be what gets to be the next farm on PulseX, right? And I think, if you were voting with your ink tokens, which would give you a reason not to sell your ink tokens, that would be super bullish for the ecosystem. So it works similar to how Fox and 2Fox work, actually, as far as the reward token being the voting token that controls the ecosystem, right? So built-in incentives to hold something that you're getting as a free reward for participating can be super bullish for an ecosystem. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. And then furthermore, I started digging into the code, pulled up the MasterChef contract, and then this is literally like it's on the first page of the contract. It says, this is the Inc. MasterChef code. Note that it's ownable and the owner wields tremendous power. The ownership will be transferred to a governance smart contract once Inc. is sufficiently distributed and the community can be shown to govern itself. So it says right in the code. It's right there.
Yeah, exactly. So when I was kind of looking around, basically, ended up seeing that it's like, okay, so it kind of seems like what RH is trying to do is he's trying to like for the first couple of years of Pulse Chain or PulseX, I should say, what he wants to do is he wants to just bootstrap it. He wants it to be strong on its own, get people in, and then from there he's going to move it over into like a governance where we the people, right, are going to be taking care of it. Not only does this help like make PulseX strong initially, right, the DEX, but it also is exactly with RH and the way that he tends to do things, which is always as decentralized as possible.
Yeah.
So
and it would be much more decentralized if it was a DAO system than a dictatorship, right?
Exactly.
To the point where the SEC might, they might back down from something that had that decentralization attached to it, which it does, right? So, to the point where if somebody said like, "Oh, are you running this?" No, these people are, right? Like
there you go.
All million of them, right? So once ink is sufficiently distributed, meaning there's enough individual holders, and it's not like being held by 90% by 2 or 3 big whales, right? Then you have like a decentralized governance system, and those have proven to be strong on blockchain, and that's how a lot of our governments work more or less too, right? So this is it could end up being a democratic process.
And I find that very interesting too, because and I'm on record making a bit of this was originally with PDI, right? And the idea of him pegging that, in which what he's trying to do is he's trying to almost recreate America. And there seems to be a lot of, I mean, obviously it's deep stuff. You can go on and on about it, but TLDR, right? Basically, he's trying to make a country, a financial state, so to say, where you have a lot of very rich people just trying to change the world. And he's trying to make people as rich as possible, but he also knows that you can't just have a dictatorship where he's the god of this state and everybody else just kind of worships him. He can't have that. And I think when it came to Hex, people, the Hexicans calling him God, maybe that kind of bugged him a little bit. But he knows that it is a part of, create a community, create a cult, create a religion, right? And then from the religion, you can create morals and a way of living that eventually turns into fill in the blank, right? And in this particular case, I think he wants us all to be sovereign individuals. I think he wants us all to use and prop up the entire ecosystem of the economy, that is the digital state of economy in the real world, which would be like a sovereign country that ultimately is a financial country, because you can get sovereign states based on finance. I'm not exactly sure 100% on how to do it, but think Hong Kong, right? That's basically what that is. So something like that. And I think he kind of wants to create one of those things. Now, that would be absolutely wild if he actually succeeded in something like that, because you could imagine that he thought up this whole idea, or maybe he envisioned it way back in like 2018 or even earlier, right? Maybe he envisioned it and that's what he saw Bitcoin as, until Bitcoin started kind of going a different direction, and he instead decided to make a better Bitcoin, which would be Hex.
And now he's got he'll have 4 better stable coins to choose from now. So he's
Yeah.
talked about in the past about doing stable coins. Well, in my opinion, he's effectively done it 4 times once ink printers come out, because there'll be 4 RH products that are collateral for a stable coin. It's mission accomplished.
Yeah, and one thing to think about too is, uh, so when it comes to Ink's use cases, right? It's like it was hidden in the code and it was not talked about, right? Outside in normal spaces. So that kind of suggests that he wanted to deliberate the choice to these embedded features, right? To being discovered by people who are technically inclined, who really understand code, you know?
The
And
part I just read, like, it's not like about it being once it's sufficiently distributed, and the
Mhm.
community can be shown to govern itself, like, that's in the code, but it's like right at the top of the code. Like, if you go to uh, the MasterChef contract and you press contract on the Block Explorer and you press code, then you can just, like, you just immediately read that before you even scroll into what would be considered code. So when I started examining this and started asking some of the devs in the community, hey, what do you know about this? Like, most of them that are involved in any way, including some that may or may not have been involved directly with RH projects, they were all very much aware that that was there. So it might have been
Okay.
new to me when I found it, but I think there's a lot of sharp guys and gals on Pulse Chain that were probably aware of this, and we're aware of the functionality of the ink token. It's just there's so much to look at, and you can't be an expert on everything. So
Yeah.
when I started looking, I started finding things right away, and that's always exciting. Like, I wonder if there could be more. Like, oh, there is more. Oh, there's more. There's more. Like, okay, great. But yeah,
Yeah.
ink is way more than just a reward token. That is definitive, because it has a bunch of code for a reward token, and the code does the stuff that I just said. Right? It's meant to be a DAO.
Yeah, and see, here's the thing. It's almost like he's creating kind of like a mystery to go out and find, right? Now, I could see why he would do something like that if he really wanted to create that sort of religion, right? Who, whispers from God type of thing, right? Where you got to go
Yeah.
look for the code, look through the code of one certain coin that he made that he says he likes, and let's see what's in there. Right? What's the future? What's going to happen with this? Ultimately, I think this could be basically just a strategy to build, organic traction, rather than doing something like super flashy, like say Uniswap's Uni token, right? With the airdrop and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Generally speaking, if you do notice around crypto, it tends to be, oh my God, there's a big thing, and it gets hyped up, and then people like say receive the airdrop, dump it immediately, right? And
Right.
that's usually when people, I mean, it's PvP, man. That's where people end up just losing out on money. And these big hyped up moments, there's a lot of people who are catching on, and that's why we have such a meme cycle with the way that we do, because people have realized, oh, you just brought out your freaking token and it's already at 1 billion market cap. Well, what the hell, man? Right? How much gains are there to be made here? Oh, and you also only gave the entirety of the public 3% of the tokens. What the hell? Right? It's just people have caught on to that. So I think in this
Yep.
particular case, with what he's doing here, is he wants something very organic. He wants something that is like a mystery. People are gonna go figure it out. There's fun and adventures with it. But then is also you create a love for just the ecosystem in general, because he has these types of mysteries going out. And I mean, what are we left with? We're left with right now. Hey, what is he gonna do with it? What are the possibilities? That's the thing that I think is very interesting about what it is that he's doing here with this.
There's been a lot of action from, like, the OA account and RH lately, launching Pump Tires, staking all the hacks, right? Like, more
Mhm.
action in the last month than there's been in the last 2.5 years, basically, right? So, yeah, this could be, this could be on the roadmap, a hidden roadmap that we don't want to create expectations, but yeah, there could be plans for Inc. So, but at the very least, we're creating a plan for Inc. right here. So there'll be a way to make it into $1, and that's pretty heavy utility for Inc. right there. Even if nothing else happened, I think that would probably change the picture quite a bit.
Yeah, yeah, and let's see. So I had a couple of theories that I wrote down over here that I think could be like the use cases, right? So the use cases, bootstrapping decentralization. So the way that he made ink, right?
Mhm.
So it's kind of like it seems likely, and this is what I wrote down and all that, just ideas, throwing them out there. It seems likely that the initial owner-controlled minting was meant to kickstart adoption, um, which was very clear that he was doing, distributing tokens to early users, ensuring project growth. Once distributing or distributed, he can then transfer the power over to governance, which mirrors strategies like, say, a compound, right?
Yeah.
Which you can then balance control with credibility as well. Now that's one idea, and I kind of think that at this point, it's like I do believe that it's clear now that he's slashed the percentages, or he slashed the yield. That's what he's been doing. Okay.
Yep.
Um, then there's also like he's trying to engage users with features like delegation, the gasless approvals, make voting and participation easier, encouraging like sticky active community activities, right? And just the community in general to stay sticky, so that way they're not just freaking leaving. um, and if you actually think about it, like this could rival Ethereum tokens, right? Because once people start realizing that Pulse Chain has, like, say, a better system and it's also cheaper and it runs faster, you're going to get a lot of these Ethereum people who are really pissed off at Vitalik, by the way. They're
Indeed.
gonna they're gonna maybe want to come over to Pulse Chain instead. I do think we need to make a little more noise, but I also think that that's going to basically happen once we start getting more green candles. The higher we go, right? And then the other one is like flexible economics with the minting and burning, allowing the dynamic supply management, potentially stabilizing value or rewarding behaviors,
Yep.
which fits into the DeFi like staking or liquidity provision. Now, what I find interesting about this is that it's like, okay, so this could be a possibility that he's using ink and the governance to actually help possibly the staking of Hex, because whenever anything has to do with staking and putting something out into the future, right? That was a huge talking point of Richard Hart back in the day.
Hmm.
So if he wanted to create something that was going to help with staking, I think that would definitely be something that he would completely try and employ. And it's really obvious right now that Ink is the incentive token, incentive literally,
Yeah.
for whatever it is he wants to have happen on Pulse X. So I wonder if he's going to use that incentive to also try and like move over to the staking of Hex itself. Now I'm not sure exactly what he could do with that yet,
I
because I
have some
haven't researched
ideas.
that. Let's hear him, because I have not researched that far into it yet. So this will be brand new for me.
Okay. So we know that ink could be a DAO token, right? So the question is, what does the DAO control? Now, it could be the DAO for Paul Sachs, and you could be controlling things like, things as simple as like, oh, let's change the color of the logo to blue, right? Like that could in theory be voted on. It's not very interesting. But it could go further. Like, what if Ink was the DAO token for the whole Pulse chain, right? Or what if it was part of his succession plan, right? Like the OA account. What happens to the OA account when Richard dies, right? What if there was a way that there could be, there could be immutable code that would allow via like a DAO ecosystem where users would vote on, okay, the OA is going to stake this much, and they're going to do this, and they're going to make this liquidity, and they're going to make that liquidity. Like, what if the OA account could be handed over to the Pulse Chain community via a DAO ecosystem where the OA still exists, but it was controlled by the community. Something like that's totally possible. Obviously there'd be some code involved to make sure that nobody's hands were in the cookie jar, but I do believe it is possible. So it could be as little as you're just voting on which farms get to be on Pulse X, which would be extremely valuable and obviously would do great things for the price of ink. But it could be as much as like, oh, you're voting on core changes to the Pulse chain ecosystem, to how Pulse works itself, how validators work, which Ethereum updates we're going to adopt, and then go as far as like, okay, here's the OA bags that are now owned by the community. How should they be deployed, right? Like that could literally, it could be like the sack bags, everything could be controlled by a DAO. So, and obviously people are going to vote in their own interest. There'd be a large rush to acquire the Ink token, but all those things are totally possible and very decentralized by nature of what a DAO is, which is just like a tokenized on-chain immutable voting system, right? So yeah, it could be huge. Like it could be like running a government with the Ink token.
Interesting, running like a government. I wonder if that theory of mine is still there.
There we go.
It's fascinating. And so something else too. Now, obviously, even if you're a super genius like Richard Hart, right? You're never going to be running around with just like one idea, and this is the pathway to that one idea. Whenever, and this is kind of like the way when I look at like future trees, right? What is the future? What could actually happen here? Well, there's a lot of them you need to create. What's the worst case scenarios? What's the best case scenarios? What's the different directions you can go? Things like that, and then try and make them like the ones that you want to follow, the ones you want to take action on, be the most likely ones as of current, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I run things. So something interesting too that I was thinking about is this right here. So what I ended up writing down was like the minting and burning capabilities provide tools for dynamic if I could English, dynamic supply management. So this enables experiments like controlled inflation, destabilizing value, reward loyalty, and you kind of ran through some of these, right? But ultimately, this aligns, with Richard Hart's history with Hex, and it emphasized the stakings, the time lock, rewards, kind of what we did. But it also suggests that Ink could actually have like he could experiment with new tokenomic models, right? So I'm kind of interested to see what it is he's going to do with it, right? But there's definitely something to be said with the governance of the people deciding which direction to go versus himself. I do think though he has this experimental ability currently right now, as he does. Well, not only does he manage a lot of the supply itself, right? But he also does control everything currently. Now, my issue is the ink code immutable?
It definitively will have admin keys to do some functions. I would have to look at that. Like the nature of the master chef that emits ink means that there's functions. They're limited though, right? It's like increase, decrease inflation, add new pools to farm, like that sort of thing. So I think it would be probably immutable code, but there would be some admin keys, but they're all very relatively benign and beneficial. And the admin keys thing is not nearly the threat that the non-immutable is, generally speaking. There's not a lot that can be changed, I suspect, though I haven't looked at that deeply on Ink. But as far as like master chef contracts from Sushi Swap and Pancake Swap, which is what these things are forked from, I'm familiar with those, and there's really not very much you can do. It's like add remove pools, change inflation. That's about it.
Yeah, well, who knows what the future has, man? I can tell you right now, though, this was just sometimes all you really need to do is, it's not necessarily that you need to figure everything out, but you just need to spark an idea, right? Spark an idea, be like, hey, I wonder about this. And then from you just going and looking at the Master Chef code, right? And being like, that's interesting. And now we can sit here and we can start thinking up potential futures and what this could actually be used for. This can also change the direction of the market itself and people's opinions on the Ink token. So I do believe that what you did here was really important. I think a lot of the people who already knew the capabilities of Ink kind of downplayed it and didn't really think too much further into it. However, did you really need to think into it until the APRs were slashed? Probably not. But now that
people need a sign, right, to know that something was up and that they should pay attention. But like I think once RH is back streaming after the court stuff is done, which I feel like it will be soon, and I think that'll be the catalyst for him coming back to to the community as a live in person guy who shows up for work every day. I think that's when we're going to get some clarity on some of these things. I doubt there'll ever be 100% clarity until things happen, right? Because that's part of crypto is like you don't always get to know beforehand. But I think I think all RH tokens are going to do very well when he comes back, and finding out some of the goals for things like the ink token that'll be a good day. We can actually ask the man himself.
That's going to be a really cool day. I'm not even gonna lie, but all right. Well, I think we could probably end it here. This has been a very good show. Even though a bunch of technical difficulties, what the heck, show? Why are you being all technically difficult with us, right? Come on. We're just a bunch of people, bunch of assholes talking on the internet, says the smiling bald guy. Alrighty. Well, if you want to go ahead and shout out, where the people can find you, and I don't know, I guess what your next stream is going to be to go look for that one. Yeah, I'm just going to give you the floor here for a bit and say yourself.
Cool. So the best place to learn more about the ink printer protocol is via the Telegram room, which I see Mrs. McGettit has posted in the description here for us. So if you express more info, you can scroll down and get there. We're running a contest. We're giving away $1,000 in ink, $500 in print token, and a Bored Ape Yacht Club NFT. All being drawn from people who are in the Telegram room. So if you're interested, scroll down, join the Telegram room, and ask some questions in there, and you could be eligible. So that'd be cool.
I wouldn't mind some of that print token. That'd be nice.
Could be yours. Yeah. Right now, I think the Bored Ape Yacht Club NFT might actually be the most valuable. One just sold for like $1,600 the other day. So there's three prizes. So yeah, you have three chances to win, and all you have to do is join the Telegram room to be eligible. So yeah, consider that. As far as my next stream goes, I have a calendar. I've been streaming every day, talking about the.
You've been ridiculous, man. It's like, oh, there's Abdul again. There he is again. There he is again.
Yeah, I've done Corey Costa, G3, RH Max, Randy Hilarski, Pulse Ray Vision, R2R. I'll be on with Matt from Power City on Monday. Possibly also Crypto Coffee on Monday, I think. Yeah, those are the next two in line, and there'll be some more after that as well. But then I'm, taking a little break to go to Vegas to talk to people about Vegas, about the Ink protocol, Ink printer protocol, probably. So that'll be fine. And then, and then I'll be back on schedule. And I'm sure once it's live, I'll be doing some updates with some of the same people, such as yourself, just to update everybody on how the protocol is working, and let's see how many, let's see how many ink dollars are minted, see how it's affecting the ink price. We should actually have some hard data within like a week or two of it launching, right? Have an idea where it's going, right? How much more ink is going to get locked in the system. And then, coming back to it again, like even further down the road, like 2-3 months down the road, we'll have a better idea of how it's going to affect the entire Pulse Chain ecosystem long term. So worth keeping an eye on.
Absolutely. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and close this out. I am Nate McGettit, the Ascending Man. You've been watching Ascending Tech, where we dive deep into the protocols and the fun things, all that are on Pulse Chain. So thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you learned something here. Also, I hope you get to thinking about what it is that ink can actually do. And here's the thing, right? A lot of people right now, they're feeling really down because prices are down. You need to imagine that those red candles going downwards is literally just bad feelings. You don't have to feel like that, right? Just wait. It's patience. I can guarantee they will go up, but you need to be patient for it. And when we start talking about the greenest logo in all of Pulse Chain, you have nowhere to go but up. Come on, there's going to be some green someplace. So come on, guys. Come on, guys. Yeah, don't worry about it. We just got done talking about these possible futures over here, about what the ink token can be used for. And like Abdul said, if any of these come to fruition, I can tell you right now, yeah, prices are going to soar. People are going to rush into ink hardcore. So with that being said, this is the Ascending Man. Thank you guys for watching again, and I hope you have a better day tomorrow than you did today. Anyways, I love you guys.
Nice
See you later.
See you guys.